STEM professions can be very diverse. Scientists, they can be many, many types of scientists, technologists, engineers, mathematicians, and so much more. And it's really important to continue to showcase the diversity of professions on this show. Civil engineers are probably the least interviewed people here on the show, and I've also realized that I haven't interviewed a mathematician. While doing this audit, I also found out that I have actually lacked in diversity when it came to portraying more stories of Black women in STEM. So I've taken an oath to fix it. For the rest of 2020, 50% of the interviews on her STEM story will be dedicated to the Black women in STEM stories. And I am so excited to start that off with Mariah Peart, who is also known as a curly engineer on Instagram. She's also a civil engineer. So let's listen to her story and learn more about Mariah and her experiences of being Black in a very, very male-dominated field, which is civil engineering. So let's start it. Hi there, this is Prasha Dutra, and I'm passionate about helping you unlock your true potential in your science, technology, engineering, and mathematics career and beyond. Less than a decade ago, I moved to the US from India to live my American dream. I took my engineering career to the next level by starting my own consulting and coaching company while thriving at my 9-to-5 job. Money, time management, career planning, and personal growth are all things we'll discuss here. From expert guests and their stories to my own lessons, this show is an ongoing masterclass in how to believe in your brilliance and conquer your STEM career with confidence. Get a pen and paper and get ready for an education you wish you had in school. This is Her STEM Story, the podcast. Mariah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Oh, this is great. So you're working to become a civil engineer, which I honestly didn't know how cool civil engineering is before I saw your takeover on Engineering Girls. So I'm really excited to dive deep into that. And then you're also creating this really wonderful content for diverse engineers and especially Black women in STEM. So I'm very excited to chat with you today.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited too.
Wonderful. So before we dive deep into your activism, advocacy, and everything that you do with your platform, let's talk a little bit about what got you interested into civil engineering.
Okay, well, when I was just about 12 years old, I remember sitting at the table with my parents, and we were looking at home design books, and because they were very interested in building a home in the future, and we always like to, look at different designs and see, what they like. And I was so fascinated by the blueprints and like measurements of, the blueprints and stuff, because I was so heavily like in love with math and then already loved art. So I was like, okay, well, at that time I was like, well, I really want to do this in the future because it just looks so fascinating, and, it caught my attention. So when I was getting ready to go and apply for college in high school, and I remember I was like, okay, I want to apply to go into like an architectural program. And I remember the school sending me a letter saying like, oh, we don't think you're qualified enough, for, like the program, and like you don't like have the requirements fulfilled for the program. So I was a little bummed out because I was like, I really had my mind set on this for years. And I remember looking at the curriculum, like more curriculum from the school at different majors. And then I was really led to look at civil engineering, and I saw like the different classes that they had about buildings and, structural analysis and roads and different environmental things and stuff. So it just like a light bulb just clicked, and I was like, wait, this is it, because it's just something that I've been wanting to do, and it was already related to what I've been having a passion for, all those years since I was 12. So that's how I got into, studying civil engineering.
That's wonderful. And that's fascinating that your parents were so involved in the process of building a house and sort of were able to encourage you, to be a part of that process.
Yes, yes, we were so like into like different designs, like, or like what you think would be like great for the family, and seeing like what they liked, and I was already fascinated by like, ooh, look at the color of the house, the design of that build, and everything about that process has just been such a base and a foundation of what I love to do now. So yeah.
That's wonderful. That's always like something that people are wondering, right? Like, how can we get girls interested in civil engineering? I think you're the second or third civil engineer on the show. So, I
Wow.
recently found out like all these people on Instagram who are civil engineers. So I personally also don't know a lot of women civil engineers. So congratulations, because
Oh, thank you.
it's not an easy field, right? You would agree?
Right, right. It's not easy at all. There's just so many things you have to take into consideration before you even think about designing anything or engineering anything, and learning that whole process in school. It was an eye opener. I'll just say that it was a really big eye opener.
Yeah, because it's very, very I used to have some friends and I remember them like it was very hard. And I only had one civil engineering course, like the intro to civil engineering, where we had to draw like the floor maps or something like that, like the
Oh wow.
for homes. But I was just like, this is so hard. And I remember having some field lab, and yeah, it was just crazy, like how
Oh,
difficult it was.
oh
But
yeah.
but it sounds interesting because you guys really just built the world, right? So like everything around us, all the big bridges. So tell us, this is a little bit off topic, but tell us what's your favorite structure in the world?
Oh, my favorite structure is oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it, but it's in Dubai.
Mm,
The really, really tall
yeah,
structure. I can't think of the name at
yeah,
the moment of
Burj
it.
Khalifa.
Yes, 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 that. I always, like in high school, I always look at different documentaries of how they, construct the different buildings over there, and how they have a whole world over there.
Yeah.
And that was just so fascinating. And I just love looking at big structures like that. And that really kept me going into the interest of civil engineering. So, yeah.
That's exciting. I know so many wonderful structures, even from ancient times, like when they didn't even have like all these equipments, they didn't have computers,
Right.
and they were building pyramids, which we haven't even been able to like remake.
Right. It's fascinating what, like, from someone's mind,
Mhm.
knowing what they wanted, and then people with their skills back then. It's just so fascinating on how amazing different structures that they built back then, and then now we have like newer technology where we can build structures at a faster pace and all of that. So it's just such a fascinating thing, and I love it.
Yeah, like I could see that excitement in your eyes and your face. But and I know you use a lot of technology to do the work that you do as as a graduate student. So tell us a little bit about a couple of technologies that, as I was saying in the beginning, that I loved seeing on Engineering Girls, like the drones and the laser. So tell us a
Oh
little bit
yeah.
about how you use these technologies, in your education right now.
Okay, well, our first project, it was a few years ago, and it was for a city intersection that was very complicated. It had like two cross-cut railroads and about three intersecting roads. So it was very busy, no traffic lights. So it was a big concern for the city because there were so many traffic accidents. So with my professor, they proposed to the city engineers that like we can laser scan the city intersection, and then create a 3D model of the intersection, and then that they'll be able to go into the model and make measurements, and that way it will like help them to like not have to go back out in the field and get more measurements so many times, that they can like get the measurements right there in their computers, like at any time that they want. And later on, we implemented for close range photogrammetry. I'm sorry, close range photogrammetry with drones, and they had like a different range of drones in the lab that we were using. And for my project, it was the smallest DJI Mavic Pro drone, and they flew. Well, we had a licensed ground pilot licensed person, and they were able to fly the drone not directly over the traffic because that's pretty dangerous. We don't want nobody getting hurt on that. But they had it flown over like the sidewalk and be able to capture, some of the street. And they had to take about over 1,000 pictures, of that intersection. This was a different intersection. Taking so many pictures of that, and then we had to receive the pictures, and then we had to clean up all the pictures that had cars in it so that the model can be cleaned and stitch it together and create a 3D model so that they can do a similar thing where they can go in and take measurements at any time that you want. So that was like, a lot of that. And also with the laser scanning, the Bullitt County Historical Society, they came to us and asked if we can laser scan some of the historical barns that they had around the city of Statesboro. And these were like very, very old barns, like over 100 years old. And, like they, some were deteriorating, and others, they tried to restore them to, keep them going. And just to hear the history behind those different barns, and then being able to like create a 3D model of those barns so that they can have like a virtual preservation of them, and to like keep them in in their little I think it was like a museum or something that he had. So yeah, it's just a fascinating technology, and I just loved every bit of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sort of connects the, past to the present. So like, taking history and using new technology to sort of like continue to preserve it. But, as you said, like structures in general are, I personally think they're obviously pieces of art, they're pieces of culture, they last longer than people. So they can carry so many stories. And, pretty much it's usually like structures through which we know so much about our past too. So I think they are super, super important, and everything you're doing is amazing. And again, we just never realized how important engineering is, right? Like it's literally in everything that we do.
Right. It's just something that like is needed, and then they always want to make sure that they're solving the problems in society, and then how can they help society. And it's just something that it's like you're part of an involvement where you're giving back into your community, you're being a part of your community, like the building of your community. And it's just such like a great reward just off of your passion alone, like within any type of area of engineering, just like any range of it. And it's just such a rewarding feeling, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you're a young engineer. You haven't even started working in the field yet. Like you're still working on projects at school, but at the same time, you're already finding time to break these stereotypes and create content that excites more women and more girls to come into STEM and be civil engineers, and sharing your story through your wonderful content on Instagram. And you were also selected as top 10 new faces by American Civil Engineers Society. How does that feel?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was amazing. Like that has never happened before at the school that I was attending. The school was excited. My professors, they were overly excited. And just to hear that I was like the first Black woman civil engineering student at that school to receive that type of recognition. And, it was such an amazing feeling. And I was just so grateful and appreciative. And my family in Brunswick, they were just so excited, like saying that this has never happened before. And it's just such a feeling of like, I'm so appreciative and grateful for the journey, you
Mm-hmm.
know, of learning civil engineering and then pursuing that passion. And, it's just such an amazing feeling. And then for that to know that you, like, just doing things for your community, how like that has reached to the world. So it's just such an amazing feeling, and I was just so like appreciative of it. Even though it's been like over a year, I'm just still appreciative of that.
That's awesome. And, I'll correct myself. I said the name is American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE.
Oh yes,
And,
yes.
and again, I mean, as you said, you're showing people how it's done. So you're not only just, creating this content to inspire people, but you're actually taking that journey with them and showing them what's possible. And with everything that's going on in the world with the anti-racism movement or the Black Lives Matter movement, and being a Black woman in STEM in America, what do you think can be done to improve the state of affairs in STEM? Because again, we have single digit numbers in some of these fields for just women in general. So, even imagine how bad those numbers will be for just people of color or Black women. But also tell us, if you don't mind sharing, maybe an example or somewhere where you felt microaggression or where you had a struggle because of your race, and you were like, wait, this shouldn't be a thing, like, right? Like this, we're in 2020, like I should be just based on my merit. I should be, allowed, or I shouldn't face this microaggression of any sort. So maybe like the combination of two. It's a complicated question, but feel free to answer it however you want.
Yeah, well, I'll say I felt that type of way early when I transferred to Georgia Southern, where like one of the classes, it was just mainly male and of different ethnicities, if I could say it like that. And I was probably like the only Black female in that class. And it was like I had to work harder, to like, get the teachers, asking teacher questions, or I'll get stares like, what are you doing in here? It like you kind of like feel the like, what are you doing in here? Like, like you shouldn't be here and stuff. And it got to the point where I felt like really intimidated, because I was like I got this passion where, really want to be here. And then now I'm getting like this, kind of like standoffish, vibes from, the other guys in there. And I remember I was trying to ask my teacher a simple question from like an example from like the what he was covering in the class, and then he was like, "Oh, you should know this already. Oh, you should know this already." Like, kind of like brush you off, and it's like, "Oh, I just asked a simple question," but it like stuff like that, like that'll like kind of intimidate you, and then it's like I gotta work like really hard, and to kind of prove myself, like I can be in here with you all as well. So I think it was like, and that was early on. So later on, I did have like a couple of teachers that wasn't like that at all. And they really, like encouraged me and, included me in different projects and, really bringing out that potential in me, and to the point where it's like now I'm assisting professors, and that same professor, I think I did a project with him, or I was in his class like later on in grad school or something. And it was like, he was a whole different person. Like we actually, worked with each other, and he was happy to work with me. I was happy to work with him. And it was like, okay, it was a barrier that had to be broken to let, others know that we can, be in this same passion that you are in right now as well, because, the engineering fields, they're just growing and it's expanding, and it's like we can't just limit who can be in these different fields, so that was that little, experience that I had to like,
Yeah.
like really push through. But I'm really happy that I did experience it, because it helped me to, build myself up even the more of, of why I'm even going for, this passion. So yeah.
Yeah, that's hard, I think. But when it comes to being the only woman in the class, and if your teachers are male, I think they also get really, because they don't have any training, right, on how to handle diversity in their classrooms. And I feel like
Right.
teachers just get like really nervous and like really like, I don't know how to handle this. And
Yeah.
this is something that I think with training we definitely can do better in education and academia, where we
Right.
just need to understand that these people, these tenured professors who've been there for like 80 years, they don't know what they don't know, or their implicit bias has never been brought to them. So it's
Right.
important that all tenured professor go through certain kind of trainings, implicit bias trainings, and how to even address, how women learn, because they learn differently than how
Yeah.
men learn, right?
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Because
Yeah.
but and then what's funny, even when guys they see females in there, like some of them, I'm not gonna say all of them, but some of them, when they see females in that same class, like they automatically like, okay, she must be very smart to be in this class in this type of field. I'm going to like, attach myself to them and, kind of like ask
Yeah.
them to help me and stuff. So it's like, some people, they see your potential, and others, they're just really trying to test to see if you really are worthy to be in there or not. So
Yeah.
that's a battle in
Yeah, I know.
itself.
And sometimes people say, "Oh, it must be easy, like being a woman, because most of the professors are men, so they're probably softer towards you." But I think my experience has been opposite. It's like they just absolutely hate you. Like they're not happy that you're there. They are uncomfortable. They are not even sure what to like, how to respond to your boldness or your questions, because they personally believe in that stereotype of women being quiet and subdued. And if you were someone, at least in our schools, it was like, if you were someone who was like bold and out there, it was like very few professors really like took you seriously. I think it just
Right.
went against you. For at least for me, it went against me. And
Yeah.
it was so hard. It was so hard because everyone was just like not having it. Like, why do you talk so much? Why do you have so many ideas? Why do you want to do different things differently? Just stay in your lane. And it's hard to find like good professors, but you're right, they're both good and bad professors. And I think, again, STEM can do so much more to make STEM more inclusive and diverse. So tell us, because you also do a lot of volunteering in this field, also you create content in this field. So again, with Black Lives Matter, what do you think STEM ecosystems can do better to accommodate people who are not my majority, and people who are really just going after it because they, like you, who just have a dream, and it doesn't matter to them like what the percent or stat is. Like they just want to be felt like they belong.
Yeah, I really believe in outreach, like we should really have more outreach to those, that are not in the majority, as, as the demographic would say. But if we could just like expose them to like these different fields in STEM, and, like have these different type of, like little workshops for starting at like even at a young age. If we can catch them at a young age, it'll be something that will stick with them, and it have them even thinking, because like at first it was more with other fields like business, or nursing, or anything like anything of those nature, like the common things that people would think that you would go for. But if we can like have outreach to let them know that it's okay to break that barrier of that the norm of what is in the society now, because it's like there's a whole range of different fields of everything that you can be a part of, and it's all on what you're passionate about. So it's okay that you like math, it's okay that you like science, and you don't have to barricade yourself and like, oh, I'll just go for something else. It's like, no, it's okay. So like really having like outreach and having like little fun workshops for different people of different ages, let them know that like this is possible and you can go for this. So yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I agree. I think you have to start young for us to first believe in ourselves, so then we can convince the world to believe in us, right? Because that's the other part too. Like, if you're going to change the world, we're not going to do it by doubting ourselves or by being scared or afraid. We will do it by sort of setting the tone right, that, hey, this is how it's done.
yeah, definitely building that confidence early so that they when they go into college, they won't feel like intimidated, like, oh, like like that's okay, I can still keep going in this and stuff. So definitely building that confidence in them early on, and they'll be ready for the future.
That's awesome. So you show up with so much confidence, and you have so much confidence. So tell us, what's your favorite, like, sort of a tip for our audience where they can start feeling confident if they're doubting themselves too much?
Oh, like find something or someone that can be like a role model, either near or far, that really help you to, help you to like build that, confidence in you, and, like look at different things that are very interesting to you, and, keep up with those different things and see the growth in those things, or people who's in the field that you want to be in, and, see their growth and their outcome of, the results of, what they do and stuff. And, it's just something like we just have to keep stuff that we're so interested in like in front of us, and it just helps to keep us going and keep us being motivated in that. So that's like the real like good base of confidence that keep you boosted, like, yeah, I can do this, like, yeah, I can go for this. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah. No, that's really important. And I think seeing someone who has done it before and sort of keeping them in your circle, because a lot of times I think people surround themselves with toxic people, and then, and then they're like, I don't know why I feel like this. And it's like, you're always like the outcome of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. You're like the product of those people. So if you surround yourself with rich people, chances are you're going to be rich. If you surround yourself with people who are confident and doing great things in their lives, chances are you're going to learn from them. But I think a lot of times people surround themselves with like toxic people that are either like demotivating or not doing anything, or just like, how we have some friends that we never want to like part ways with.
Oh yeah. Oh, yes, you're hitting right on the nail. Like I always had, you have friends from like high school that you always want to, like be friends with and hang out with. And I remember like starting college at my in my local hometown, and I was always with my friends. And when we went to school, we were like kind of taking it serious, but not really, because we wanted to like go hang out, get something to eat, go wherever. And it got to the point where it's like, okay, now my studies are being affected, and I'm about to lose like interest in what I really,
want to
was
do,
striving to go and do. So it was a moment where I had to like slowly, like back away from them. And not to say that I didn't like them at all. It was just the fact that what I'm doing with them is kind of like keeping me away from what my real main goal is, in school. So once I had to like kind of, let them go, and so many like doors opened up for me. And my mind just began to like be exposed to new things, and, being able to transfer to a different school. And that's where like being open to like doing projects and being connected with these professors, and and starting to worked with, different things. It's just so many things opened up once we get out of that circle of like that same mindset that, that negative mindset that, that we can't do whatever. Oh, that's too hard. If we can just break away from that and then, just go on that, that new thing of like, like, no, I can't do this. No, this is possible. I'm going to keep speaking that over me that, I can, do something with myself, and that it can be a great impact to the community or to the world. Just, it's very important of the environment of people that we keep around of ourselves. So I connected with that very heavily.
That's awesome. I know, like a lot of times people are not sure. So that's a great point. So tell us, what is that one big thing people can take away from your story?
Oh, wow. One big thing is to just break the barrier. Break that barrier that you felt was normal. Like, oh gosh, I don't know how to explain it. It's something, it's just break the barrier.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's just break the barrier of like what we thought was like normal to us, as we're growing up. And it's like, no, things don't have to always, be like this, or there's something greater that I can, shoot for, and I don't have to just settle just for like anything. Like I can,
do more.
Do more and stuff. So just breaking that barrier in our mindset that we can, do better than what we're doing now, and we can shoot for greatness, and it's just keeping that positivity in your mind, and and keep shooting forward. And so that's the big takeaway.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that's very, very important to always remember that all the barriers, all the obstacles are in our mind, and it's important to sort of overcome them in our mind before we can actually overcome them in real life. Right. Like, even if, like, I think, what book is that? I think it's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Curry. And he says, everything is made twice. Like everything is created twice, once in our minds and then in real life, right? Like, so even if it's, even if it's fear, if it's worries, obstacles, structures, solutions, technology, it's always the first draft is sort of in our mind before it actually becomes a thing.
Right. Yeah, that's what, and that reminds me of a post I posted a few weeks ago or a couple of months ago where I put from mind to reality. Like all these things are just deposited in our mind, and we just, like think on it, and, like, oh yeah, that can work. And, like, oh yeah, I could do that. And then once we put it down into paper and then, sharing it with someone, then it becomes to reality. So I just love that.
That's wonderful. So tell us, what is your superpower?
Ooh, my superpower is determination.
That's wonderful.
Determination, like just saying like, okay, like we're going to get this done. Like if I run into a problem, like on a project or anything like that, like, no, we're going to find a solution. I don't care how long we're going to be here until we find a solution. And I just love problem solving. So that, loving problem solving is like, I'm going to be determined to find a solution to this problem. So I would say that would be my superpower.
And that's the perfect superpower for an engineer, or for any STEM professional in general. But I think engineering is so demanding of, quick problem solving. I think when you're a scientist, you do have that time on your hands. You may not be like bound with external limitations of how fast you need to produce something. But with engineering, you're usually working with other people, and in your case, maybe cities and contractors and other companies. So I think the deliverables and the timing is very, very, tight. And so it's very, very important to always be like determined to solve things. And, I've been in engineering now 6-7 years. And what I've learned in the industry is like the industry loves us. Like they love people who solve problems. And in the end, it's all about problems.
Yeah.
You just have problems every day. And, you just continue to either fight old problems that someone didn't solve properly, or you find a new version of that old problem. So I think the problems are here to stay. It's just about like your attitude and determination of how you're going to, get to the new problems.
Right. Like how you're going to handle that. So definitely.
It's awesome. Yeah. Wonderful. So before we let you go, tell us, what's your favorite book?
Ooh. Right now, I haven't been really like reading many books, but right now, our pastor, Pastor Mark Baker from Brunswick, Georgia, he came out with a book called Doing It God's Way. And it's like putting your trust in God and like allowing him to lead you and guide you in every, in the path that he has created for you and stuff. So I'm, like really loving that book. So I haven't finished it yet, but I need to finish it soon because it's a really good book.
That's awesome. I love spiritual books. I love, because I think there's so much value and power in religion, in faith, that can really help us get over day-to-day issues, anything that comes in the way. I think faith is so big, and it's so important to anchor yourself in it, whichever one you choose. It's your choice, but you would find that all of it is sort of based on trust in this higher power and trust in God, of whatever name you want to call it, but trust that things will work out. Like that's the only way to keep going forward, and never sort of taking steps backwards. So I think faith is incredible, and it really makes us really better human beings too.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
So I love that. Again, thank you so much, Maria, for sharing your story, for taking the time, and for being, so joyous and so present. Like I can sort of feel your vibe here all the way, like so far away.
Awesome. I'm just so happy that you asked me to come on and do this, and because it's just amazing on what you're doing and really pushing these stories out here and letting young ladies know that they can really go into the passion. And I just love what you're doing. It's just so amazing. I'm just so happy that you actually, contacted me to do this.
Of course, so I love amazing. Your Instagram so much. So tell our audience, where can they find you?
Oh, they can find me on Instagram at a.curlyengineer, and I also have a YouTube as well, which is called A Curly Engineer as well. So they can find me on both of those platforms.
That's amazing. Again, thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm giving you a big virtual hug, and have a lovely rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much. Have a great 4th of July as well.
And that was Maria with her incredible STEM story. Please use the links in the episode notes to follow Maria and her amazing work. This week is a huge week for her STEM story and her STEM consulting, because I have launched my Wonder Women in STEM online conference 2020. One of the biggest events of the year. You don't want to miss it. Please use the link in my bio to check out the website and get your tickets now. Use the code WWINSTEM2020 and get 30% off right now, and definitely bring your friends to this year's biggest event. In the next episode, we'll talk more about the event, the conference, and everything in between. So see you then. Until then, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Thanks for listening. Bye.